Well, there's a lot of fear after President-elect Trump ran on a platform of a mass deportation plan.
Yeah, just yesterday, the LA City Council unanimously voted to adopt a sanctuary city ordinance that prohibits any city resources or personnel from being used to help federal enforcement of immigration laws. Councilmember Nithya Raman is here live to talk about the effort to protect those with legal status here in Los Angeles, because we do have so many immigrants in the city. As the council pointed out, it's really the fabric of our city.
Yes, and actually as an immigrant to America myself, and I think I'm the only immigrant on the city council, for me this issue is one that's very, very real. And what we did yesterday was not a radical shift from what the city has always been doing. In fact, for over 40 years with Special Order 40 and LAPD, they have actually not cooperated with federal immigration enforcement because LAPD itself realized that if people who were in the city didn't feel like they could call on LAPD for help without fears that immigration enforcement would follow, that our residents here would be less safe. And evidence has shown that even in cases like instances of domestic violence, if residents of Los Angeles feel like immigration enforcement will follow when you call 911, they don't call it.
They won't report it.
Yeah. And so I think this is really a straightforward way to ensure residents of Los Angeles that if you call on the city for help, we will be there to protect you, and we will be there to protect our most vulnerable.
Yeah, you know, about an estimated 1.3 million immigrants live here in Los Angeles. So, of course, it is the fabric of our community. However, this is a larger issue, right, that was kind of laid bare by the election results, which is a lot of people say immigrants are welcome, but you have to come in the legal way. You have to be vetted. We have to know who you are. What's the problem with that argument?
Well, I think here in Los Angeles, for so many people who have connections to undocumented immigrants, people who came in through different pathways, I think here in LA, that approach to immigration as a city is a different issue. What are we trying to do as a city? We're really trying to keep residents safe. We are not involved in federal immigration enforcement or border policy. What we want to do is ensure that Angelenos can go about their daily work, can go about their day, can take care of their children. And this is our intervention in that effort. Not a discussion about broader immigration policy, but really what do we do to ensure that Los Angeles and Angelenos have the stability they need to continue to live and work and thrive here. When this was being discussed in council, one of the council members brought up that during the last Trump administration, ICE vans were parked outside of schools, prompting fears from parents that if they dropped their children off, that they would be rounded up. That is not the kind of city that I think any Angeleno wants, and I don't think there will be significant debate about that.
Well, speaking about the schools, the LA City Council passed the ordinance, and LAUSD passed a similar protection for both immigrants and also protecting LGBTQ students. Can you talk a little bit about how the city and schools are working together? Well,
we are totally separate administrations, but so much of what we do works in tandem. Our homeless services integrate with school services, and our leadership are in communication. And so I believe this effort was led by Board President Jackie Goldberg, who's nearing the end of her term. And for her, as an LGBT woman, as someone who has fought for the rights of vulnerable Angelenos for so long, I think this was an important effort for her as she's nearing the end of her time as a board member.
If the federal government does send in the National Guard, does use the military, does deploy federal resources to Los Angeles, what is the plan to push back on that?
So I think here is where we have to lean on the mayor and her experience in engaging with Trump at the federal level. She comes to us from decades of experience in D.C., working with D.C. legislators during a time when I think there wasn't very much support for standing up against that agenda. And I think we will have to look to her and her leadership to really manage us. And I do trust, she came out strongly saying we will protect our residents, we will protect immigrants. And I really feel that she will be able to lead us through this and guide us in how we can engage with Washington most productively for Los Angeles.
Well, many experts are saying, though, this isn't going to stop mass deportation. The Trump administration has said they're going to come in, and we did, as you said, in the last administration, see that. I know there were also some questions raised on Tuesday about the intersection of the Water and Power, the Port of LA, and Los Angeles World International Airport. Can you talk about what's going on there?
Yeah, so LAWA, DWP, these are all what are known as proprietary departments. So they're controlled by the city of Los Angeles through commissions that are appointed by the mayor and approved by the city council. Even LAPD has a commission that oversees its policymaking. But all this means is that they will have to look at their own policies and procedures and pass something that will reflect the will of the mayor and the council as part of their own policies. But they're unlikely to buck that trend because they're appointed by the mayor, they're approved by the city council, and I think they know that if they were to push back against, reasonable policies, that they would be removed from those positions. And so I think there's always been a real cooperation between these entities and the city.
Okay.
Since you're here, I think the last time you were here to talk about Measure A. It passed.
Right. We did mention it then. Yeah.
Yes. So LA County will raise the sales tax to fund efforts to house the homeless, homeless services. You've been a champion of this effort. Can you tell your constituents now that they will see a decrease in the homeless numbers and that small businesses will not be facing the same sorts of issues they've been seeing?
What I can confirm to residents is that if we had lost the funding under Measure H, which now will be replaced by Measure A, that we would have seen a rise in it. And what I hope to see is a decrease. Measure A offers us an opportunity to make a very sprawling system more accountable to the people, more transparent. I've talked to now leaders of cities across the county, and all of them face some of the same challenges with the county's services. The county, remember, provides mental health services, substance abuse services. It's hard for us to know when the county is providing those services, where they are, and how we can engage with them to get as many people off the streets as possible. Measure A has accountability written into it. And so now what we're doing is partnering with the county through an official forum where we're actually going to get the data we need in order to move us forward towards a more transparent system. We will be able to track where our dollars are going, how they're being spent to address the person on your street corner, and hopefully to get that person indoors as quickly as possible. And I'm looking forward to doing that. In fact, I'm leading that work and pushing for the data that we need to hold the system accountable.
You bring up transparency. Was that also why your office led the effort on ballot DD?
Yes, Measure DD. I'm so delighted this passed. This was a product of redistricting and my experience with it in 2021, where it was very clear that lines were being redrawn to benefit incumbent politicians. The tapes leaked famously, and politicians were discussing redistricting on those tapes. I mean, there was homophobia, there was racism, there was all kinds of stuff. There was a lot going on there. But what they were there to talk about was redrawing the lines of Los Angeles to benefit them and their allies on the council. And interestingly, explicitly to redraw my line so that I wouldn't get reelected. And Measure DD passed, taking power away from Los Angeles City Council members, because what was going on in those tapes was not illegal. Under the previous law, council members could actually redraw the lines. They could discuss with one another, provided they followed the Brown Act. Now all of that goes away. We've actually given power to the people of Los Angeles to redraw the lines, a model that's followed across many jurisdictions. And I'm so excited to have led that effort.
How did it feel when you found out it passed, since it was personal for you?
I mean, it was like night one it passed. It passed with, it wasn't like one of these measures where we had to wait day after day. I mean, the people of Los Angeles stood up and said, yes, let's definitely do this. And I was really excited. And I was really proud, on a very personal note, when I voted, my name was right there, promoted by Nithya Raman right there next to Measure DD. And I was really proud to see that Los Angeles stood up and said yes too.
Well, thank you for coming back and talking with us post-election. It's always good to see you.
Thank you for having me, and I hope that I can come back and talk to you about how we're making our homeless services system better in the future as well.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.